I would hope that everyone in our community, we talk about the good and the bad, but if people sat down and did this, no matter what your political affiliation is, no matter where you live, what walk of life, if people talk to each other rather than at each other, I think we'd have a better society as it is.
Yes,
we need a big civic lesson.
Hallelujah.
None of your business, Ushi. None of your business, Michael.
It's the None of Your Business podcast, hosted by Michael and Ushi.
Welcome back, everybody, to another amazing episode of the None of Your Business podcast. I am so happy to be back in this chair in the center with the logo behind me, and I have my co-host to my right, and I have an amazing, amazing guest to my left, Senator Bill Weber. It's a pleasure to have you here this morning. Thank you so much for coming. Before we begin, just want to thank all of our wonderful listeners and followers and ask everyone to continue subscribing, commenting, liking, even not liking. Just tell us, give us the feedback. We love, love, love our feedback. We want to thank our wonderful partners at Prime Source for sponsoring this amazing effort and for all the new beautiful tablecloths and shades and lightings that we have. And as we continue to grow, may we all continue to grow together. So we're here with none other than newly elected Republican Senator Bill Weber. And I am excited to have you here because when I say newly elected, I mean fresh, hot off the press. I mean, like, Ushi, I know that you went out to vote, right?
Yes, I made every effort to go vote. I was never a big voter back in the day, but in the last 8 years, I started making a conscious effort to be more involved. You know, you don't have a right to complain. You don't have a voice if you're not going out to vote. And I truly believe that. So I made an effort to go vote. And by the way, the process was really easy. They somehow have it very organized. I got there within 10 minutes. I was in and out. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to tell you, Michael, when I think of politics and politicians, I have a lot of respect for politicians because they need to be good at a lot of things. You know, someone who's in a specific industry, they're in a specific lane, they have to master that. And that's it. But when you're in politics, you have to be a people person. You have to know business. You have to be a sensical, logical person. There's just an array of things that you have to do that it's difficult. And I have a lot of respect for people who go into politics, especially at a high level. You know, it's one thing when you're a politician at home, you know, you're arguing with your wife and your kids, you know, but this is on a grand scale. It really is. And you have so many people that you have to please and you have to contend with so much. It's an audacious job and it's a daunting task. And it's not for everybody. This is only for the elite. It's for the people that can handle this.
Speaking of which, Senator, how are you feeling?
We feel great. So, you know, it's great to be here. Thank you for welcoming me in on this podcast. It feels great. You know, it's nice to get rewarded for hard work, and it's been hard work since day one. You know, I like to tell the story of election night 2022 when we won. We were up on stage declaring victory, and at the time, Supervisor Holman of Clarkstown whispers in my left ear saying, "Your re-election starts in about 5 minutes." And it was good to really have that said to me because, you know, you're always running for re-election, unfortunately, in this cycle that we have here, especially in New York, when you have Senate seats and that are every 2 years. And you have to always be cognizant that everything you do has to be amplified to the fact where you have to be out and about in the community, out and about in your district so that people get to know you and that you can earn their trust throughout the 2-year cycle so that when it comes election day, you're not an unknown entity or an unknown brand. And that was important for me to hear back in 2022. And I really was guided by that for the 2 years in office.
I have to tell you, I feel the excitement in the community. I feel the excitement on the WhatsApp chats. I feel the excitement every time we go to a local party. You're there. You're there in the trenches with us. And I was just talking about that with you a minute ago. How is that in terms of dealing with the community, right? And, you know, one of the challenges that we have in sales and marketing is, you know, adapting to new communities, right? Not, you know, everyone is Jewish that owns nursing homes, right? So we're out there trying to find those people and trying to connect with them. And I'll never forget the first time I was in Louisville, Kentucky, and I was speaking fast to the nursing home owner, and he says to me, Michael, you got to slow down. And I just had to adapt to what was happening there. So how has that been for you? How are the Shalom Zachars and the parties, and then going to the other sides of the community and joining in theirs? How's that experience been for you?
So it's been exciting. You know, it's something that I recognized day one, that we have probably one of the most diverse districts, in the state. What I did is I made sure that my office, people in my office, reflected the district. Democrat, Republican, it didn't matter. I think I had the most bipartisan Senate office probably in New York State and probably in the 38 district's history. But I also hired people that were reflective of the district. One of my first hires was Mort Becker, who's here with us today. We also hired two Creole-speaking members of the community. We had a Spanish-speaking resident as well, and also people reflective of Orangetown and Clarkstown in the secular community. What we did day one was we made sure that all of our Senate literature that we put out into various newspaper articles were in various languages, whether it was in Yiddish, whether it was in Creole, whether it was in Spanish, to make sure that everyone feels comfortable, everyone knows what a senator's office does, and really let them know in their language, and let them know that we have people at our office that can pick up the phone that they will not have a language barrier with. So I felt it very important to do that, to show not only the effort, but making sure that we were sensitive to their needs as well.
Wow. By the way, I have to ask you, because this is very fresh. You recently won. It was a big victory. I remember in summer camp, when I was the general of the red team, and that moment when they announced the winner, it was the best feeling ever. And we had hundreds of kids who started jumping up and down. It was a frenzy. It was just an elite moment and such joy, pure joy. In our baseball league, we have a softball tournament that we play in, and I won this year. And that feeling was just second to none. Like, it didn't matter any other accomplishments that I had in my life. Like, that moment was it was ecstasy. This, winning an election, this is the pinnacle. This is like the highest point you can reach. Yeah. And to win at that moment, when it was clear that you were the winner, like, what does that feel like? What's going through your mind? What do you tell yourself at that moment? It's hard not to, get ahead of yourself and feel really, really good about yourself. But what do you tell yourself? What's that like?
It's exciting. Listen, winning is obviously much better feeling than losing, and I've been on the losing side, and it doesn't feel good. But when you win, you, I think, reflect on all of the good things that you did and the rewarding, and really looking towards, what you wanted to and what we want to accomplish in the next 2 years. So, I talk about it rewarding, but we also kind of even it out and kind of take a deep breath and talk about the journey that comes ahead of this too as well. So, you get into elections, you talk about a lot of things that you want to accomplish in the next 2 years, and to really have the reward given to you on election day is just another step in what we want to accomplish long term.
Yeah, and it's a big responsibility. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of people put their vote of confidence in you. And they said, all right, Senator, you want the job? We're going to put you in office. And they did. The people have spoken. You are now the elected official. That's a lot to take in. Do you feel that pressure? Do you feel that weight of, all right, I got to get to work. I have a lot of things I got to do.
Yeah. So I feel that, obviously there's always pressure that comes with it. But as I said before, it's rewarding. And, the one thing you always hear about people saying, well, politicians don't do anything. All they do is go around and shake hands. It's a lot of work, I have to say. It is a lot of work. It's a lot of handshaking. It's a lot of events that you go to. But in the end, it's worth it. And, maybe it's that the business background that I have, being a CPA and also being in private business for 30 years. You always have to be willing to be open-minded to change with the times, as they say, really go into various media forums to really get your message out, and really don't necessarily do the old way of politicking, but also, innovate yourself and have the younger generation around you that would show you the new ways to reach voters. And we tried doing that, and I think we were successful in doing that by also just bringing in, being out there, being on these WhatsApp groups, being willing to blow the shofar at an event. And
look at you, blow the shofar.
I was successful on the second attempt, and then we did a little music video the day before the election, but trying to reach the voters of all ages and really being hip with the times, I guess.
You were in business for a few decades before you went into politics.
Right. Yeah.
What was that transition like? What happened?
It's it's hard, but it's also very similar. And I think you mentioned it before. I don't know if we were on air or not, but we were talking about market share and customers, and in business, that's what it's about, right? You got to pick up the phone all the time. That's why we're very successful in terms of our constituent services at our office, because we're there to help our constituents, and if you don't answer the phone, you don't win over constituents, just like it is in business. But also when you talk about market share, right? That's business, and you always talk about improving your market share. We felt very comfortable over the summer months knowing that our brand and our hard work was paying off in terms of polling and stuff like that. And we used Jim McLaughlin of the McLaughlin Group. I know Mike Lawler uses them, and Donald Trump uses them. He was very comfortable where we stood in the election. This was in August, but he said, don't lose market share. Maintain your market share and you'll win the election. And that was something that we, really focused on the last 60 days as well, because, market share is, again, something that we always look at in the business sector. But, I knew that day one, coming out of the business sector into politics, it's about advertising, it's about marketing, it's about making sure that people know who my brand is. And that's why we were very focused from day one on really marketing my brand.
It's interesting. I always tell people that come to me for career guidance, one of the most important things is building your personal brand. Mm-hmm. And you don't have a choice. This is everything for you. Your personal brand is everything.
Right.
What people see about you and they say. And I was joined into the WhatsApp group, which the first thing I do when someone forces me into a WhatsApp group is I do what normal people do, is they leave. I leave the group. But this one, I didn't leave because I saw pictures and videos of you blowing shofar, and I started learning about your Jewish family, and I was intrigued, and I was like, what, I need to learn more about this guy and see what he's doing for the community. But I was wondering in the beginning, okay, what made him go into this world? Like, you were in business for a number of years, so what happened? What was that process?
Yeah, because they do say that there's no reward for someone going into politics. Like, it's just you're entering into a world that could potentially become a nightmare. It's risky business. It's very tough. You're really putting yourself out there. You're going to be very vulnerable. You're going to be susceptible to all kinds of comments, good and bad. And
Oshie and I are going through that now. We opened a podcast.
By the way, we welcome all the negative comments. We look forward to those because we love haters. Everybody loves haters. We especially love haters. It fuels us. It drives us. And by the way, most of those negative comments, like those people that have always something to say that puts you down, they're just trying to lift themselves up. That's what they're doing. It's terrible that they have to resort to that, is by putting someone else down. But for all the haters, we have double and triple, tenfold the amount of people that are positive, and people that are trying to lift you up, and people that are saying, wow, you're doing a great job. I'm really enjoying it. You should keep going. And they're motivating you. You always have both sides of it. But, this is really
making a decision to be a public figure.
Yeah, that's like really putting yourself on a pedestal.
When did that happen for you? What was that like?
It was a transition that I made probably 10, 15 years ago, getting involved in politics. It's when you're in the private sector, or you're a resident of a village or a town or a county, you don't like sometimes what's going on in your government, and that kind of fuels you to try and get involved. I think, as you said,
what
early
fueled you? What was it? Well, take us back.
It started off really when the whole St. Lawrence thing came out. I was frustrated with what was going on in town, and it got me really interested and motivated into politics. And, I made mistakes. I think, not being someone who's been in politics for 20, 30 years, that was everything in there wasn't in my blood, right? And, you make mistakes, you get tripped up, you're not fueled in, or at least seasoned in knowing the whole political mechanisms. But I'm a good learner. I'm a listener. I'm someone who, takes criticism, takes the good and the bad, as you say, and takes those criticisms as motivation and as learning lessons as well. And that's something that I build upon. And, those downs became ups, and those negative comments, hopefully we turned around to the point where we can at least have positive, constructive conversations in the future. Everyone's not going to vote for me. I think Mike Lawler always says this comment about Ed Koch, where he said, if you agree with me 100% of the time, go see a shrink or something. Like, I'm going to butcher the comment, but the fact of the matter is, everyone's always not going to agree with me or vote for me, but that's okay, because when the election's over, which it's over right now, our statement reflected our sentiment. The election is over. It's time to get to work. And we have a lot of things that we need to get done for our residents. So it's something that I'm focused on doing. And it's working with Democrats and Republicans. I'm in a very, blue district or purple district, but it's blue by registration, purple by its voting habits. But it means that I need to make relationships and build coalitions locally so that we can get things done at the state level.
Yeah.
Michael, by the way, I don't mean to interrupt over here, but normally our model when we have a podcast is we have a bottle of wine and we drink a little bit. I'm assuming that you didn't roll it out because out of respect for a senator. Like,
That's
is that
exactly
what
right.
it is?
Yeah.
Is that the reason?
Yeah.
No. But he doesn't seem to me like the kind of guy that's, he knows how to have a good time, it seems like. I feel like, he wouldn't be so turned off if he would have had a bottle. Am I right in this or am I wrong?
You're right.
What kind of guy are you? Like, are you, like, can we hang out or does it have to be
I'm
like,
a gin and tonic guy.
I'm not, there you go. You see? There you go. That's
Well, he has these things called Chill with Bill. So like,
I want to hear about that.
I mean, that's something that, we need to have our own in our community with him.
What is this Chill with Bill thing? I need to know more about this.
That was the creation of Mort Becker over here off to the side. It was a way that we were able to connect with people. We would go to various restaurants or people's homes. I think our first one we did at Nussie's.
Ooh, love that place.
Then we did Did we do Lashishi? We did Lashishi.
He's been all over the place. Look at this guy. Amazing.
We also did them in private homes. It was a way that we brought food in. Food is always a good attraction for people to come.
Most important.
Everyone loves food.
Most important.
It was a way for people to come in and ask me questions about where I stood and voice their concerns in an unfiltered manner. And politicians sometimes, especially at the higher levels, they have a wall, right? You can't talk to your politician.
It's hard to connect.
You don't get an answer. We felt it important that I get out and about in the community to really create a buzz about my campaign, create a buzz about me, and get people there to really feel comfortable with me. To in the end, know that I'm a real person, that I'm a friend, I'm someone who can relate to them, to their concerns, whether it's paying high taxes. Well, I pay those same high taxes. Whether it's struggling, because you have 4 kids and it's the chaos of everyday life. Well, I have 4 kids and I have the struggles of everyday life. It was important that people know that I'm not just a name or a politician, as they say, because that could be a dirty word to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be the person of the people, and I think that gave us really broke down barriers and broke down walls between what politics is and what relationships are.
I want to vote for you again. Can we go back to the polls and vote again for you? I'll tell you why. Because what you're saying now really does resonate. I'm someone, I have 4 kids, I pay high taxes. You're one of us. You're not someone that is sitting in its own little field, and we're all. You're a real person, like you said. And the fact that you did this Chill with Bill thing and you went out to places, to the people, I think that's a much more modernized way of how politics is going. Look at Donald Trump. He went to the Joe Rogan podcast. Like 20 years ago, such a thing would have been like, are you out of your mind? You're running for the president of the United States. You're going to go sit with the people and Joe Rogan? Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly what catapulted him.
Right.
And Kamala Harris, she didn't take that opportunity. She didn't sit down with Joe Rogan, right? And that may have been a very big miss. But
She sat with The View, though.
She sat with The View, exactly. But at the end of the day, this is the new modernized form of politics, is that we're all involved in politics, much more than we ever were. And we asked, I think it was your brother who was a councilman, we asked him, like, what changed in politics that people are so in tune with what's going on? I think the average consumer knows so much more than people did 20, 30 years ago. And he said very simply, social media. Yeah. Social media really created that platform that now everybody is involved. You say something, 20 minutes later, the world knows about it. And everybody understands exactly what you meant by it as well. So by really taking that to your advantage and by sitting and mingling with the people, I think that's really what set you apart, and I think that's what people really resonated to you. And I think that's an amazing thing, and people should learn from that. It's not just in politics, but in business and anything. People just want to do business with people. They don't want to necessarily do business with your company. They don't care about your product is just as good as the next guy's product, a little bit better, a little bit worse. But people want to know, who are you? I'm going to spend time with you now that we're doing business together. I want to enjoy myself while I'm spending time with you. I want to have a good time. We got one life to live. And I think that was a really clever thing that you did, is that you understood that and you really capitalized on that.
It's also that power of 10, right? So we would have people that come to Chill with Bill and they would say, can we take a selfie with you, right? And that selfie goes right up on their WhatsApp status.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that everyone's got hundreds of people that follow them. So it was building that brand and really saying, oh, I want to go to that next one. And, even with visiting schools, we visited a tremendous amount of schools in the last 2 years, and we went to camps, whether it was camps locally here in Ramapo and Muncie and throughout Rockland, but we also went to Camp Hask and a lot of the camps upstate. And I found it, our opponents criticized saying, well, Bill only goes to school and camps. But to me, being on the education committee and being on the disabilities committee, of course I'm going to visit camps. And schools. I want to know the successes. I want to know what's working and not working and bring those comments and experiences back to Albany as well. So that also built our brand as well, because there was so many families that we ran into that said, oh, my son or my daughter saw you at their school and they keep talking about it, and they brought home the pen with your name on it, and they took selfies with you at camp. That was kind of building the name brand by even having the kids and the parents involved in this entire experience.
Very smart. My 7-year-old son came home last week from school, and I'm talking to him. He says, Daddy, are you voting for Mike Lawler? I'm like, what? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, he's 7. What do you know about, politics? But, start him young. People should be involved. Like, this is your life, this is the community that we live in, and this directly affects your quality of life and what we believe in as a community and what's good for the public. This really matters. It really makes a difference.
I want to say, I know that you're involved in a lot of things. Fiscal responsibility, disabilities, and many different things. I did a little bit of my research, and I've also been following you over the past few months, and I'm super impressed, I have to just say, because, like we talk about in the nursing home industry, there's so many different parts of running the business. In politics also, there's so many different parts. There's so many people that you have to care about. You go to Camp Hask. If you were just busy helping the people with Camp Hask, you'd be busy all day long.
Of course.
And it's such a noble cause. And it's something that we wish that people would help people that need those kinds of help all day long. But you can't. You have to spread yourself out. I'm curious, what are those challenges that you think that the world around you is facing now? You're going to these chills. You're hearing the people talk. Are there people that are coming to you and saying, this is a challenge? You're like, what? Hey, I never thought about that. That is a good challenge, and I'm going to go look into it right now. I'd like to hear about that.
I think the biggest challenge I'm hearing is the affordability crisis locally, and it means a lot to different people, whether we talked about it a minute ago, whether you live in Ramapo or and send your kids to private schools, you have a very big tuition bill above and beyond your taxes. Whether you're a senior at anywhere in our county, it's very difficult to live here because you're on a fixed income, and rents are high, and mortgages are high, and cost of living is extremely high. And the younger generation, I know they're struggling as well in terms of how much it is to rent a 1-bedroom apartment anywhere in the county is just it's a really big struggle for people. So we really need to solve that. And it's going to take some state investments. I think a couple of years ago the governor talked about some incentivizing more affordable housing built in various areas of the state, and she used an approach I think that was very that turned off a lot of people, especially in the Hudson Valley. We were essentially against what she was trying to do in terms of, we called it local control of local planning and zoning. I think most people in the Hudson Valley want their own local towns and villages and county to be in charge of their own zoning. But she wasn't wrong on the fact that it's very unaffordable to live here, and we need more affordable housing. So I talk about affordability, people's water bills, their tax bills, their electric bills, added on to their, whether they own a house with their mortgage or their rental apartment. That's a big problem that I hear throughout the entire district that we need to somehow deal with. It's been talked about for a long time, but it's getting harder and harder for people to have any money left over in their checking account after they have to pay their bills. So it's something that we have to really tackle immediately.
And realistically, though, what do you do? I mean, when I get some piece of mail and it says your taxes was reduced recently by 2% or 5%,
you say where to go to.
Like it doesnn't really help much. Like that's not really what I'm looking for. So I'm curious, what kind of solutions are there? What are the real solutions? I don't know.
I also feel like it's a little bit sort of tied into the federal control as well. Like there are limitations as to what a state can do directly that will affect, the people living in those districts.
Right.
But what is some of the remedies? What needs to give in order to bring some of those costs down? Because you're right, affordability I mean, I think everybody can agree that's probably the number one thing is we have so much, tuitions are very expensive, private tuitions, and the taxes that we pay is not just high, but I think it's higher than a lot of places in the country. We're probably in, top 10. I'm making up that number. I don't know if that's true.
You may be top 2 between Rockland and Westchester for sure. Maybe
top 2?
Maybe.
In the country?
And in the state.
State, for
in the
sure.
state. But I say even in the country, we're probably pretty high, but it's like, what's the next steps? Where do you go from here?
I think what Congressman Laurel has been talking about in terms of changing that SALT tax, the SALT deduction limitation, that was something that the Republicans did 8 years ago, which is a bad idea. I saw it, being a CPA, I do many personal income tax returns, and I see the effect it has on a lot of our local residents because, as you said, we're one of the highest taxed counties. So you add property taxes and school taxes, but also your income taxes, and having that limited in terms of deductibility puts a lot of pressure on people's pocketbooks. So getting that corrected hopefully will put some more money back in people's pockets. I think there's a lot of things we could be doing at the federal and state level in terms of increasing the child tax credit, which is something that gets immediate money back into people's pockets. And it's being open-minded on allowing people to deduct other things on their returns, whether it's medical. A lot of people have a lot of high medical bills. Maybe we should allow that to be more deductable. Whether it's private tuition, that's something I think we need to be open-minded with in terms of allowing people to deduct it. So those are to me things that should be on the table immediately to look at. And then I think long-term we have to talk about how do we incentivize, how do we help local municipalities, at least doing it without a hammer, but having incentives for local municipalities to allow housing to be built that's affordable housing. And right now it's not happening. And as I said, the governor's approach was wrong, but her entire concept was not wrong. And that's something that we need to go back and revisit at some point.
Did it ever happen to you that you're about to do laundry or go to the cleaners and you get back something from the cleaners and you put your hands in your pocket and you find $20? You're
Michael,
like, oh my God.
Michael, those are one of the joys of life. What do you mean? Those are like moments that you live for. Like when you reach into your pocket of a pants that you didn't wear in a week or two, and you find a $20 bill. I almost don't want to spend it. I just want to like frame it or something. It's free money. Like somebody just it's amazing. Yes, I know that. We all do.
My wife says whenever if she's doing the laundry or something, if she finds money that's her money.
Of course.
If I didn't take the money out of my pocket, I gave it up.
By the way, any money she finds is her money. Okay, even if she doesn't find it, it's still her money. Let's face it.
Whether we like it or not.
Yes, yes.
I'm curious. You go into your pocket, you find $20. What are you spending your $20 on?
Oh, I don't know. Usually it's gone. I don't get a chance.
Do you even have cash on you? Do you carry cash?
So it's interesting to say. I generally don't carry cash at all.
I don't either, by the way.
Me neither.
I don't either.
And it gets a little complicated because sometimes we'll go to events like 2 weeks ago. I went on a Sunday morning up in Haverstraw to a fireman's breakfast, and I went with one of my staffers, and they had cash on them, thankfully, because I had nothing on me. And we walked in, and I'm like, "You take credit card?" And they go, "No, cash only." But I think more and more people don't carry any cash on them.
Yeah. No, it's a digital world.
By the way, firemen here are all volunteer, right?
All volunteer,
up here in Rockland.
Yeah.
Did you know this, that they're all volunteer?
Well, I know firemen in general usually are volunteer,
Well,
isn't it?
in the city, not right.
Not
in the city,
right.
but
in New York and the big cities,
Yeah.
not. They're all paid, but
Well, they're not paid a lot. I'm saying they're not getting rich by being a fireman.
Right, but
it's a big component of it is really being volunteer, work that they're doing.
I just find it interesing that, that up here they're volunteers. They don't get paid for doing it. What other people are volunteers out here serving the communities? Are there others other than firefighters?
Haverim.
Chaverim also as
Right.
well. Yeah, that's
Right.
true.
Haverim.
That's
Yes,
a great
I
point.
think so. Yeah.
Great people, Javier.
Yeah.
Great people. They started out as like an organization that was like, you have a flat tire, we'll come and help you. They've grown into so much more than just that. But even that alone is a beautiful thing. I'm not going to fix people's tires. Like I got stuff to do. But these guys were taking out time in their day, no matter what, and no matter how small of a task it is, how big, they're up for it. They're amazing people. I want to ask you something. Just it triggered for me when you made this comment about the private schools. We pay for. It's very expensive. So in our community in Muncie, there's about 6 or 7 day camps that you can go to. And a lot of them have been around for 10, 20 years, for a long time. And we don't really have, a building that can accommodate this many kids in the summer. So typically what we've done, and I know that because I used to be involved in a day camp many years ago. I was a head counselor at a day camp for a long time. Then I became an owner of a day camp. And I was involved in this aspect of securing a building of where we're going to be for the summer. So what the camps typically would do is we would go to public schools and we would ask the district, East Ramapo, if, we can rent, well, not for free, if we could rent, lease their buildings for the summer. And it was a nightmare. It was a tedious process. They made it very, very difficult for us. And there were certain summers that we didn't know, even a week before camp, if they were going to actually give us the building or not. Because they didn't just make it a simple process and 2 months before they gave us a yes or a no. They made us sweat it out to the last minute. And it always bothered me. It really bothered me because the community, the extended communities, in Ramapo, at least the Jewish communities, we pay taxes like everybody else, and part of those taxes goes towards the public school system, towards education, which is fine. That's amazing. That's where it should go. I'm glad they're spending the money wisely. But we don't really benefit from the public school system. We don't. And, we have the private school systems, and we pay for it, which we should. We want to go to private. You got to pay. We understand, but come on. Let's do a little bit of basic math over here. We're not benefiting in any way. We pay towards it. I'd think that they would be jumping out of their seats to help us and to at least let us use the building. So, by the way, you're making money on this, so you're monetizing, which is good for the schools, right? Otherwise, it's sitting there empty and you're not making it. It's just costing you money. You have an opportunity now to actually make revenue and help people at the same time. And ask any day camp owner in our communities, the biggest issue, the biggest obstacle they have in running a day camp is, are we going to get a building this year? Or is these rampers going to tell us, for whatever reason, they don't even reckon with us. They just tell us yes or no. And we have to pull every connection that we know. By the way, you're going to be getting a call, Senator, soon, when we need help. But literally, what's going on? What's up with that?
I'm glad you brought that up. So probably one of the first challenges we dealt with coming into office was exactly that. We got calls from Manny Schwab from Camp Fun.
There you go.
Right. Rabbi Isaac from...
He already started getting the calls. He doesn't need you.
Oh, wait a second. Am I the only one that doesn't have you on their phone book?
Okay.
What's happening over there? They're all calling already.
It was probably right around March 1st, month or two into office, and we got a call from Rabbi Isaac and from Manny Schwab saying that they weren't able to secure their camp space. They were told that the buildings were going to be unavailable. The district had all the ARPA money that they were doing the constructions on, and we worked to get them the camp space, and that was one of our proudest moments, one of our biggest successes right out of the gate, was speaking with the administration at the time, speaking with not only board members but the administration in East Ramapo and securing that space. And I got on the phone with, not only last year but this year, getting on the phone with the administration, with also the construction managers who were doing the projects. Maybe I kind of used my own experience in the private construction world, talking about, all of your schools are not going to be having the construction at the same time. We have thousands of kids that rely upon, and especially their parents rely upon their kids going to camp. Again, as we said, relatable. I have 4 kids. My kids went to camp. My wife and I work full time. We need our kids to be in a camp environment in the summertime for our work schedules, but also for their great experience too. So we were able to work with the school districts to do it. This year was a little bit more challenging. I know Morty over there has his head down, but he was very successful in helping Camp Fun, Rabbi Isaac, or Rabbi Isaac.
Camp Fun, Rabbi Klugman's yeshiva.
Right, so we were able to at least get them a space for the kids for a portion of the day. They were able to use the outside fields over by, I think, Grandview. So we made it work. But I do see some challenges. I see challenges going forward in terms of the lack of camp space. So I think what we need to do is be more innovative in terms of maybe utilizing some of the state park areas. I think there's challenges there because there's not enough restroom facilities, but I think we need to be forward-minded and knowing that if you're not going to have enough spaces on the public schools, because obviously there's public school camps that go on as well, so you have limited space to do it. But it's something that we're going to have to deal with because in terms of enough properties to handle the amount of kids in camps is something that
I'm curious about your approach. What do you do when you get a no? When someone says, no, I can't do it. It's not going to happen. I mean, being in politics, being a person of the community, what is your approach? And maybe you can tell me something that happened to you where you got a no, but you turned it into a yes.
It was with the camp, that camp in with the district last year, a year and a half ago, back in March. Immediately we got no. We're doing construction. It's not going to be available. And I took, I listened to the no and I said, well, it's not good enough. we have kids that need to go to camp. We have parents that are relying upon these kids to go to camp. So we worked through that no and got it to a yes with some limitations. We had to,
Sure.
work around a calendar, work around a schedule that was more conducive for what was going on. But, you do get no's. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's not like I convert every no to a yes, but, we try and take a no and we take it back and say, well, is this just government saying no because government likes to say no? Because, in government, things work slowly and too slow for what I'm used to in the private sector. But just trying to take a no and really seeing if there's other opportunities to do it. So I consider it a challenge on a lot of no's, but there are certain no's that are frustrating, but we try and work around that as well.
It actually reminds me that one of the things that I was taught when someone tells you no, and I try to teach this to salespeople and people that just want to move forward in life and try to get yeses, is you ask the following question: under what circumstance will you say yes?
That's a good approach.
And let's just go through it. Well, no, it's impossible because we're doing, well, under what circumstance would you say yes? Well, if, you gave me more money, or if this person wasn't around, so what would be that yes? And it's something that you're going to, of course, face challenges in the future of politics and dealing with people. But
Michael, yesterday, literally, just yesterday, we did an annual review on one of our sales reps. We do annual reviews for all our reps. If you're here for 1 year, then we do quarterly reviews. But after 1 year, you get annual reviews. So on his annual review, this very topic came up, is you're getting a lot of no's out in the field. And you're coming here as to, well, that's why, I didn't have the greatest year because I got a lot of no's. So I told him, I want to tell you about something personal that happened to me 4 years ago. A family member was going through a medical experience, traumatic. It was really rough. And there was one person, Brody, I think is a physical therapy company, gave me advice that at that moment didn't seem like it was such powerful advice, but as I went through my experience, it was tremendously impactful of what he said. And I lived by it. And it was this very sentiment. And what he told me was, in this field, this medical field, you're going to hear a lot of no's. You're going to hear a lot of people tell you, no, this can't be done. No, that's not a good idea. No, don't do this. You're going to hear a lot of that. And you're going to have a hard time responding to that because this is not an area that you know anything about. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a clinician. I don't know this space. And I'm going to accept it because the professionals are telling me no. He says, here's my advice to you. Anybody who tells you no at this point is in your way. That person is not the right person. He's just in your way. And now you have to work a little bit harder and you got to go a little faster because he wasted your time. That person that said no was in your way. Go to the next person because he's not the only doctor. He's not the only surgeon. He's not the only practitioner. There are others who are going to say yes. So keep going. And it might sound like it's simplistic advice. It really may. But when I lived it in real time, I realized that if I would have listened to that guy who I thought knew it all, came with a high reputation, and if I would have accepted that yes at that moment, I wouldn't have found the next person who actually said yes and who's also as capable, who's also competent. That was the advice he gave me, and I told this to this rep. I said, you need to treat it in business the same way. There's millions of customers out there. It's not the only one. And even with this customer, when they tell you no, it's because you didn't ask the right question, or it's because you didn't have that right interaction. He's in your way. Go to the next person in the organization. That was the advice, and it sat with me. And what you guys are talking about, and I feel like it blends in very, very well. Don't accept no. It sounds easy. Don't accept no.
I see the trophy you have there from, I guess, your softball tournaments.
Oh, yes.
Right? When you think about a baseball or softball analogy, right, the best hitter in baseball, average-wise, is probably someone who got hits 350 or 300.350. That means they failed 65% of the time.
There you
right?
go.
But you have to look at that and really put in front of you where you can get your successes, where you can get your wins, and really focus on that. Because whether you're in sales, you'll get 10 no's on the phone or 10 hang-ups before you get one successful one. You have to look at that in politics as well, and really try and keep your head to the ground, your ears and mind, your ears open, and really focus on where you can make the successes. And no's can be turned into yeses,
Of course.
but it takes work.
Yeah. And you don't look back and say, I had a lot of failures in my life. You look back and say, I had a lot of learning lessons in my life. It's not a failure. You look at a failure as that was an opportunity to grow, an opportunity not to repeat the same thing and understand I got to try something different and get a different outcome, then you'll never have any failures. It's just a lot of learning lessons.
Yeah, I agree. I'm curious. Where'd you grow up, by the way? I'm curious
Pearl
about
River.
you.
So about a mile away, 2 miles away from here in Pearl River.
Yeah.
So my parents moved up from Brooklyn and Queens in 1969. My mother, I guess, was pregnant at the time. I was born, I think, 8 months later after they moved up here. I was born in Nyack Hospital. So lived there for into my early 20s. Got married, moved to Nanuet for about a year or 2 years, and then we built our home in Montebello in 2006. So I've been there ever since with my wife and 4 kids.
Beautiful. Wow. How is Montebello? It's a nice,
Beautiful area, Montebello.
It's very beautiful.
Beautiful.
We're on a private road. We love where we are. We get bears and we get deer and we get all different type of wildlife. But
I think that bear came to visit me the other day also, by the way.
That same beer.
Yeah.
He's been around the community for a while.
He goes all over the place. He gets around that bear.
I think it's been doing its circle for a long time. But it's nice to live in a community where you can just go out in your backyard and listen to nature and go on hiking trails in Kakiak Park
especially in the fall. When
the fall is beautiful.
It's nothing like it.
We love living there, and we love the fact that we feel safe, we feel secure. We have great neighbors that we've got a lot of new neighbors.
Do they vote for you?
I hope so. Well,
by the way, anybody who lives in your area didn't vote for you, you cut them off. Because that's not cool, because they know who you are. So that's a direct insult if they didn't vote for you.
I have to tell you.
No, it means that I need to do, if they didn't, I need to work and really show them that there's...
Smart.
That's why he's a politician.
Exactly.
Because I don't have that.
He knows.
I'm too emotional. Like, if I would find out somebody didn't vote for me, I would have what to say to them. And I would attack them. I'd be like, what is, like, why didn't you vote for me?
There's a reason why.
What's the reason?
We
What
don't
happened?
find out, by the way.
Huh?
There's a reason why it's not made public.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And some of the first things I did in 2022, the day after I won, is I went and spoke to a lot of community groups that didn't vote for me, saying that we're going to work hard every day for everyone.
You said that you feel safe and secure, and I love that. And the truth is, here in Rockland County, it's pretty safe, it's pretty secure, but you're a senator. And it's the responsibility of just the local community is much more beyond that for someone like you. And therefore, I'm curious. I don't feel that safe and secure anymore as a Jewish person. Visiting certain towns, visiting certain areas, recently listening to what happened around the world, around the globe. Just being Jewish is putting yourself in a situation where you don't feel as secure as you used to. How does government get involved in that? How can you as a person in the political landscape affect my life to make me feel more secure when I travel? What steps can you guys do to help us feel more secure? I really am genuinely curious. Other than the fact that, I could take lessons in karate, or I can,
carry a gun,
carrying permit, exactly. But I'm not talking about that extreme. I'm talking about from a more political landscape. Right. What can be done? Mm-hmm. What's on your mind in terms of
Right. So I was happy to
safety.
Be appointed to the anti-Semitism working group that we went around the state to get testimony, and we did one in Rockland County as well, to get testimony of experiences of anti-Semitic activities and anti-Semitic assaults and crimes against our Jewish residents. And this was before October 7th last year. So we know there was a heightened increase in anti-Semitic activities in the state, and it was obviously further compounded, and we saw what was going on throughout the state and the nation, especially on college campuses. But we need to keep our resolve up, and we need to continually pass stronger laws, hate crime laws and other laws to really show that we're serious about addressing this issue. We need to, I think, strengthen laws and penalize college universities and schools that are allowing this hate to be taught, that we see a lot. And that gets to that whole free speech argument. But I think what we know is what we saw on Capitol Hill and Harvard and Columbia and all of these higher institutions. Right, the presidents came there and they couldn't even tell you what anti-Semitism was, and we know what it is, and we saw what it is. The one thing that we did do in this year's state budget that was passed in April was we put an extra $35 million in grant money that's available to religious schools, shuls, houses of worship, that they can access grant money to increase their security
at
their facilities. in terms of hardware.
Wow.
It doesn't
Like
pay
security systems,
doesn't pay
cameras.
for operating expenses, but cameras and such. We actually had a forum at RCC a week before the election, where we invited a lot of the smaller nonprofit organizations to come in, because navigating through the grant process in New York State is very difficult. And if you're not a larger organization, you miss the deadlines, you don't get pre-qualified. So we had a great turnout there of local school administrators and local just all types of nonprofits that came there to learn about how they can access the money. So it's more money in terms of.
So let's break it down for a minute, if you don't mind. So number one is responsibility in terms of actions have consequences, right?
Sure.
And that's really great, because what recently happened in Amsterdam, I saw this video.
I saw that last night,
and I was blown away. There was someone that was pushed into a river, and they weren't allowing him to come out of the river. He was at risk of drowning until he screamed, "Free Palestine." And I was embarrassed for the person, and it was hurting me inside. And I was thinking to myself, this person is being recorded. They're going to know who took the recording. If they don't punish that person to an extent where they don't, never ever think of doing this again, it's not going to work. So you mentioned the idea of the hate crime, and then you're talking about the idea of putting security measures, funding those cameras and systems. The other day, I was walking in New York City. There was a protest going on, and I felt a little bit, insecure in my surrounding. And I'm walking up by one of these, what was a beautiful hotel called the Roosevelt Hotel, which is now a playground for people that are coming in over the border. And
I've been to beautiful weddings there, and it's a shame what happened.
It's really a shame. And I'm walking by there, and I was scared, because I saw someone holding, obviously flags that weren't welcoming to someone like me walking down that street. You know what I did at that moment? I took out my phone and I made believe that I'm live. And as I walked through the crowd, I said, "We're live here right now in front of the Roosevelt Hotel," and they all stayed away from me. So I do want to mention that the idea of putting security cameras and funding the local, areas of giving them the ability to put cameras is also an amazing idea, together with fighting those crimes and making sure they're punished properly. Let's continue down that road. What else can be done? What else is happening so that we can feel more secure, knowing that, I don't have to pull out a camera and make believe I'm live when I'm walking down the streets of New York
Michael,
City.
this is what he's saying, is the number one thing is to put a deterrent for people to do such things.
Yeah.
Right? And the harsher you are,
Right.
and the more you criminalize it, it will limit people.
Yeah,
doing
no,
these
that's what I was curious.
Right now, they feel very brazen to do things like this because of our soft on crime policies, so somewhat, especially in New York and other states as well. If we reinforce that, and it's peace by force, it's making sure that people understand that we're strong and that we have resolve, and that if you step out of line and if you do any type of hate to any person, no matter what their background is, no matter what their creed is, I don't care what religion they are, but if you do any type of hate crime, in America, everybody knows this, in America, more than almost any other country, you're better off murdering someone before you steal from the government. When you steal from the government, they have all kinds of repercussions. They'll put you away for 50 years. They'll put you away. And if you murder someone, they'll put you away, but it's not as bad. White collar crimes are known to have harsher, some would say that maybe the punishment doesn't fit the crime, but no. Why? Because that's the exact reason why we have to make a bigger deterrent. Because people think, it's not so bad. I didn't murder anybody. I didn't rape anybody. And therefore, people feel more emboldened to do those types of crimes. That's the crime you have to punish more.
Right.
That's exactly the one that you have to do more. So when people feel like they can do whatever they want, they can go out in the streets and literally beat up someone because they're standing behind some type of Free Palestine or whatever it might be. It doesn't give you the right to beat someone up in the street almost to death. You see 4 or 5 guys standing around this one person on the ground. They're kicking him repeatedly, right? There has to be peace by force. We gotta, that's a very important thing, and that's I think what the senator is saying.
No, but that's what I was
that we
asking.
have
So
to make sure that we're putting in place big punishments.
So my question is, and to follow up on that, and thank you, Oshi, which is perfectly said, is that enough right now? Is the hate crime punishments enough today that it is a deterrent?
I think it's something we have to, continually look at and continually monitor, and we'll look at the statistics, but also really having those laws prosecuted, I think with real penalties, I think would be, I think a big deterrent, as you said. But I think it also comes down to the fact that we need to have a better educated society, right? And I think it comes to the fact that we need to make sure the kids are learning about the Holocaust more. We have the Holocaust Museum at RCC is amazing, and if you haven't gone to it and visited, you should.
I haven't seen it.
You should go there. A lot of the schools are going and requiring the classes. I think it starts in middle school for kids to go in and see what happened. Because
I didn't even know that it existed.
Me neither. I'm hearing this for the first time.
History repeats itself, and I saw something yesterday that said "never again" is happening now.
Right.
So we need to make sure that education, and we got to do it at their early ages, because I think we need to make sure that the next generation is educated as to what happened, and we need to make sure it doesn't happen again. But it takes a continual education
That's a
of
great
the younger
answer.
generation.
Look, that's what I was referring to earlier,
Right.
which is what
That's
what
the
is
second
that,
step. Education
the
is
step of education
is stemming it at the roots, where it's starting from. If you eradicate that, you'll have less of a problem later on. But right now, unfortunately, the colleges, right, a lot of these campuses, that's where it's all coming from. They're misleading.
They're a breeding ground.
They're breeding
ground for hate right now.
Yeah,
And we've seen it, and it was exposed during post-October 7th last year. We saw what went on. But we also know that we have a lot of people around the world that are funding, right, that are putting money into these endowment funds.
Yeah.
People that are just affiliated with bad actors around the world that are really...
They're perpetuating it. It's terrible. By the way, in our little circles, I think everybody in this room, we see what's going on. We're very well aware of what's happening. How could you not? It's all over the place. It's rampant. But let's just, on the flip side, remember that I get along with, the people in our community, and in my inner circles, you have Muslim people, black people, Hispanic people, Jewish people, Christian people. We work with all of them, and we get along. Let's not forget about the good. In a lot of mainstream, this doesn't really happen. We don't care what background you're from. We don't care religion. We're all humans. We're all here to make our lives as best as we possibly can, right? We're just trying to make a living, support our families, have a little fun, a little recreation, never hurt anybody. And there's a lot of good going on. And all you see on the news, and all you see is all the dirty parts, all the detrimental things that are happening around. You're seeing that, unfortunately. And let's not forget, there's a lot of good, Senator, right? There's a lot of good that we also need to remember and focus on that a little bit too. For every 10 minutes of bad media, let's give 2 minutes of a nice story. Let's remind everybody, hey, here's a beautiful story that happened in the community. Let's do a little bit more of that.
Unfortunately, the media doesn't highlight the good in the world. It's, negative or controversy sells more on the media forums. But, as I've gone around our entire district, whether it's People to People, which is a food bank, or whether it's Tom Koshavitz, we have so many great organizations and people that are donating their time and really making a difference in this world. And we should be celebrating them more. And that's why, we attend those. As we talked about earlier, I attend other events, but we go and visit all our nonprofits as well, because there's so much greatness going on in our community, whether it's, like I said, no matter where we are in the district, we have great organizations that are doing great work every day, work that government can't do or wouldn't do as well as they do it, because people's hearts and minds are behind it. But unfortunately, in this day, in politics and in media, the goodness of everyone doesn't necessarily get highlighted, and it should. And maybe if they were, more people would participate in those goodness and really do it, instead of being online, as I call keyboard warriors, talking about all the negativity and why we should all fear each other rather than embrace everyone.
Keyboard warriors. That's a good name. I'm curious about, you're a senator. There aren't many of you. This is a very rare type of job that you have that most of Americans do not have. Can you give us a little glimpse into what your day typically looks like? When you wake up and you're not coming to do a podcast, you don't have anything major on your agenda, You're just going to work today, right? And you're going to do your thing, 9 to 5, let's assume. Obviously, you're probably working many, many hours beyond that, but your responsibility-wise, you go to an office in the morning and you sit down in the office, you make calls, you bring in people from me. What does your day look like from when you wake up until you come back home?
Right, so it's kind of different between the beginning of the year and the end of the year. So starting January 1st, we go back, or January 3rd or 4th, whatever, we go to Albany. So we're not in session from June 10th or 9th through the end of the year. So we're back in our district. We could be at the call of the governor for special sessions, which happen, but they're infrequent. So from January to June, A lot of my time is spent, majority of my time is spent in Albany. You're up there 2 or 3 days a week. When you get towards April, towards the budget being due, or towards the end of the legislative session when all the bills get passed, you're up there 5 days a week. But during those 5 days a week or 3 days a week, I'm back in the district either at night. I come home at night or on the weekend, depending on when we get finished there. So a lot of time is spent in Albany at the January to June cycle, from June or mid-June through the end of the year.
Does everybody stay in the same hotel in Albany? Like, how does that work? Like,
they don't. So I think the younger generation stays in
The Airbnb?
Well, stays in Albany, closer to the capital. They like to go out, but kind of some of the old timers. I stay in the same hotel with Simca Felder.
Oh, nice.
Being in my mid-50s, I stay with the older generation, because when we're done for the day, I don't need to go out. I've been there, done that. So I kind of stay a little bit off the beaten path, but we don't all stay in the same place. But I think we all chart our own course. But through the January to June, we're in Albany. Through June through December, we're primarily in our district office. Our district office is in Nanuet, 163 Airport Executive Park near Costco, which is a great spot because we can be at any point in our district in 20 minutes. But you're right, it's not a 9 to 5 job. There's been times I've been in Albany, I've come back for a wedding in our district at night on a Monday night or a Tuesday night, and then go back to Albany right after. It's only an hour and 45 minutes. When I was in the private sector as an accountant coming out of Rockland, I had clients in Brooklyn and Staten Island. Trust me, that's a worse commute than driving up and down the throughway, where you can schedule all your calls and you can get work done and accomplished in that ride itself, and it's an easy ride. But June through December, we're visiting camps in the summer. We're visiting schools. We're going out giving accommodation awards or Empire Awards to recognize nonprofits and businesses, and really going out and having senior fairs and veterans affairs and all these other type of community events to really listen to what our residents need and bring those experiences and those that information back to Albany for the next legislative cycle.
Wow. What is the biggest number one accomplishment that you would be very proud that in 10 years from now we can all look back and we're enjoying whatever the results were then, but we can say, Senator Bill Weber, he was a pioneer. He was a trailblazer on it. What is that one thing, not necessarily that you won't or will accomplish, not putting any pressure,
sure,
but what would be what means something to you? What's personal to you to say that this is something I had a part in, and I'm glad that I did it. It was a lot of work, but here we are now at this point. It wasn't easy, but we got it done. What would be something personal for you?
So it's going to be on the school-related matters, and we were successful and proud to accomplish getting private school families busing in Suffern Central School District. There was a lot of challenges for the last 8-9 years with private school families not being satisfied and not getting the services that they needed with their families. In terms of, public schools do a great job in terms of scheduling the busing for the public schools. It's easier. It's one high school, one middle school, maybe 5 elementary schools, and all of those start and end times are are consistent. When you have private schools, you have larger families, but you also have different bell times. Younger kids start earlier, older schools. So you had a lot of challenges. We were able to, through consistent advocacy and meeting with some school board members and administration in Suffern, we got them to allow a large number, at least a number of nearly 500 students were able to get busing through their own yeshivas or through their own private schools, and it's going to be a great improvement for them. And we've already gotten great positive feedback. I think it was about 25% of the kids now in Suffern Central have busing through their own schools, and
that is a big one.
And it didn't cost the district any more money, which is important, because from the public school point of view, the holdback could be, well, it's going to cost the district more money. We don't want to do it. We're going to utilize it through our own system. We were able to show them that it's not going to cost them more money, and they were open-minded in looking at this new system.
Love that.
You don't have to wait 10 years. That's something that you can feel good about right now.
Actively happening.
Well, no, right. And we'll hopefully,
make it
we know the
better.
district will see the successes of it and build towards that. But we'll also, I think, show surrounding districts where you're having a large increase in private school families, Clarkstown, North Rockland, Nanuet, that they're going to have similar challenges. The families that are moving in there will have similar challenges, and we could at least show those districts that it didn't have any negative impact on
Right.
budget.
You have a template now for the others to
Right.
see
It
that
didn't have an
could be
impact
done.
negatively on the budget, but it also says that you can have peace and harmony and everyone can feel satisfied with the service.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
And I just have to ask you, because this has been in our community spoken about many times when it comes to busing. Why can't I know when the bus is coming to pick up my child?
I know.
We have the technology. It's available in city buses.
You mean like a tracker, like an
a
app
tracker
to see
that
where the
I,
bus
as
is
a
up to?
parent, by the way, Senator, if you don't mind me pushing my little agenda here, I, as a parent, am willing to pay a monthly fee
Yeah.
to just see when is the bus going to be there.
Okay,
so I have to sit out and
you
wait.
should talk to your wife, because I have a feeling that you're not aware of this, but most neighborhoods have a chat, a WhatsApp chat.
No. I know they have a chat. I know.
You know what happens?
I'm very aware of
The
chat.
bus shows up to the first person.
Yes, and then everyone lets them know when it's coming.
Exactly.
Because it's a chat.
Everybody has a heads up where the bus is up to.
That's not.
I think it's been talked about. I've
Yeah.
heard some of the districts talk about getting an app on your
Yeah.
phone where the parents can know where their child's bus is.
That's what I'm referring.
There was some privacy issues that I think a lot
Oh,
of families were concerned about
Also true.
saying.
By the way, Michael, really? This is what you
We're
have
talking
to
about
ask?
busing. You
We
know,
have the
but-
senator sitting
No,
here
but-
talking about
for an
busing.
hour, and you want to get an app that tracks a bus.
No, but
Absolutely, yes.
but it's no. It's I think it's an important.
And by the way, I don't have kids in school that it matters to me anymore.
I don't even have kids.
I'm talking about people in the community, and this is what they're talking about every day. You know, in the winter, it's freezing to have your child.
I
sit outside
disagree.
for
I
half an
disagree.
hour.
This is not what community people are talking about. We have a lot more pressing things.
You're talking
going
about
on.
busing, so I was talking about busing because it
but
came up.
there was privacy about if someone has a family where maybe the mother has custody and the father doesn't, he has access to the app, or there's people, bad actors that can get information about where the buses are going. So there's some privacy issues that they're going to work through.
Well,
But I just wanna-
what's the community talking about?
Not this.
What is it?
Not this. What the community is talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah. What are they talking about?
I don't know. Why can't we have more bars? Why are drinks so expensive? Like, why do I have to
Really?
pay $18 for a margarita when I
That's
don't know,
the question.
Like 3 years ago, it was like $9. Those are things that real Americans, Michael,
I
struggle
feel
with.
your pain on that one.
Yeah.
I'm allowed
exactly.
I'm allowed to chime in every once in a while.
Oh,
I
Stephen,
actually
thank you.
have something to say. What about the traffic?
Yeah.
Can we talk about that? The infrastructure, the traffic. It's crazy how it takes.
Would you like the senator to put on a yellow vest and
no,
start
but
waving
there's got
traffic
to be.
around?
There's got to. We
We-
discussed it actually.
We talked
prior
about
to
it
this podcast.
prior to you coming in and starting, but it's a big need in our community now. We have a growing community in Rockland County, and the infrastructure dates back and was designed for what Rockland was 40 or 50 years ago, and rather than what it's going to be in the next 40 and 50 years. And I think we as representatives in our district, but also as a state, have never made the investment that I feel has been necessary to really be innovative and be forward thinking. And that may mean widening Route 59 in certain parts. And that may mean putting sidewalks in a lot of the newer areas that haven't been considered in the past. And that may mean reducing speed limits on 202 in Wesley Hills, where it's 50 miles an hour, where you have people walking and riding their bikes on a shoulder that's about 3 feet wide. I think we need to say, what is Rockland and this area going to be in the next 50 years, and let's plan for that accordingly, and let's put the money away, whether it's at the state level, bringing that in, or at the local level, factoring in that those are our responsibilities to make sure that we have our residents that are walking are safe. And it leads into the whole, we talk about busing. You have a lot of busing incidents, bus accidents, kids getting off the bus in areas at bus stops that are not the safest because there's not enough sidewalks or there's not enough area on the road. I think all of those things factor into where we need to be over the next 50 years and really make the investments starting now, because you can't do it all at once. You have to do it in pieces. But if you have a plan going forward, I think it makes for a better and more safe area to
Okay,
live
yeah,
in.
I agree. Listen, it's very normal. The city is growing. We're expanding, and infrastructure's got to go along with it. And it takes time. I respect that. I'm curious, what does it take to get a street named after you? Like, at what point did you make it and they're like, let's name this street Senator Bill Weber Street?
No.
What happens? How does that work?
Well, no, we're not naming one after me. What I will tell you is we did a street naming recently that we passed the legislation.
Who decides what to name streets, even to begin with? Who decides that?
It depends. So at the state
'Cause
level,
I'd love to know who named my street Boar Court. Who thought it was a good idea? Let's name this street after a boar.
probably in those cases, probably the developer, right? We talked
Yeah,
about being
yeah.
in the development business for myself years ago.
Oh, they get to pick? It's not like a citywide or a statewide thing?
No. On the local roads, no, but on the state roads, yes. So, for example, over in Spark Hill or Tapan area, Spark Hill, we renamed a road after a longtime administrator at St. Thomas Aquinas. So Route 340, which is a state road, we renamed a portion of that road. I announced 2 weeks ago up in Garnerville area, we're going to rename part of Route 202.
Well, she wants a street named after him. How does he go about that process?
No. I don't want any.
So
street named
for
that.
us,
That's
it
not
takes-
true.
right.
I just want to know like what the process is and who's naming it. It's a lot of power for someone to be able to just give a name to a street that's now landmarked forever. So it's a big deal. Maybe I could sit in that board. I'd love to be a part of that. I also want to know like people come up with these strangest names. Sometimes you come in the street like what? What's it called? Like how do you spell that? It's just strange. I'm just curious about it. I don't think.
So for state roads that are existing, because the state roads are there, we can rename portion of them with state legislation. I carry the bill in the Senate. My counterparts in the Assembly will do it. The governor passes it, and we change that name. In terms of local towns and villages, they've recently renamed portions of various towns and villages after police officers that have passed away, or firemen, or community-minded people as well. But I think when it comes to new private streets or new developments, I think the developers have a say in terms of what those names are going to be on those streets.
Okay.
I think years ago we built the development right outside the Gary Goldberg's mansion in Montebello by the mansion there, and we had something to say in terms of what those streets were being called. So
What's the Gary Goldberg's mansion?
it's on Montebello Road. It's a big old house that was I think occupied by Thomas Ryan years ago, and it's now an office development. But I remember at that point being involved in some of the street naming, so I can't comment on why a lot of those street names are named after
Got it.
those people. But I know that on local developments they have a say in it.
Weren't you a developer in your area? Weren't you part of that development team?
Yeah.
So did you have a part in naming the streets?
Well, no, we came after the streets were named, but one of the streets were named after a firefighter that was lost in 9/11. And
There you go. Right. So
that's exactly right. It's
Which
a hard,
street was
hard name to pronounce, Sikorsky.
Oh, Greg Sikorsky?
okay.
Yeah.
And but we're proud to live on a street that's named after someone who was a hero, a local
See,
hero.
that's a very nice story. Like if I would live in a street named Greg Sikorsky Street and someone, I have a story to tell now. Like I have a reason to enjoy the name of my street, versus like I'm embarrassed to tell someone Boar spelled Boar and make sure to tell them how it's spelled also because it could be anything,
I'm going to petition to change your name of your street. So how do I go about that, Senator?
The street next to me, by the way, is called Stag, and I think Stag is more appealing. So the name Stag is like, has much more, it's a nicer name.
Bushi, any final questions before we wrap this up?
I have so many questions. Can I come work for you? Can I just can I spend some time? Can I just tail you for a day or two?
Actually, you can. I'll tell you a funny story. So we have 2 interns that worked with us over the summer, but during last legislative cycle, it was done through the League of Women Voters. Students came up from the high schools here to shadow a senator for the day, and we had two young girls that shadowed us for the day. They came into conference with us. When we went into executive session, obviously they had to leave, but they shadowed us from my office to our conference before we were going to the Senate floor. So maybe you'll come shadow us for a day and see the day in the life of.
as long as you agree to shadow Ushi.
Okay, I will.
No, his life's way more interesting than mine.
No, it's a deal.
I just work a lot. But this is, Michael, we should do it together, by the way.
That'll be fun.
Do you think we should get into politics, the two of us? What do you think?
I think so.
Do you have any other aspirations beyond this? Like, are you going to be one day running for the U.S., for Congress, for U.S. Senator, I don't know, president? Like,
I'm very happy where I am right now.
See, again, by the way, this guy, he's the real deal.
Going places.
He knows what to say.
Absolutely. Senator, I just want to say again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you do on behalf of the community. It is a pleasure to get to know you more personally, and I'm happy that our listeners have a chance to also get to know you more. And we look forward to many amazing, great things that you're going to be doing for us, for our community, for our families, for yourself, and for all the people around you. And just want to wish you a lot of good luck in everything that you're doing. And with God's help, we will we'll persevere and all do good things, and there will be peace amongst us. Hopefully not through force, if we wouldn't need that. But we do what we need to do.
Amen, brother. Amen.
And any final?
Listen. I would hope that everyone in our communities, we talk about the good and the bad, but if people sat down and did this, no matter what your political affiliation is, no matter where you live, what walk of life, if people talk to each other rather than at each other, I think we'd have a better society as it
Yes,
is. We need a big civic lesson.
Hallelujah.
I love that, Senator. Really, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Prime Source, for sponsoring another amazing episode. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, get involved, and it's a wrap. Have a great day, everybody.